to some more news updates. Trump has raised the tariffs on China to 125% from an earlier 104%. The latest salvo in an escalating standoff between the world's two largest economies. The heightened tariffs against China took effect at the same time Thursday as retaliatory levies of 84% slapped on by Beijing on US imports. Foreign Ministry spokesman Lin Huan has stated that the US tariffs seriously damage the rules-based multilateral trading system and seriously impact the stability of the global economic order. China's Commerce Ministry also warned the tariffs risks severely impacting the global economy, but stressed that the door to dialogue is open. Commerce Ministry spokeswoman He Yong-kwan said that they hope the US will meet China halfway and properly resolve differences through dialogue and consultation. Let's take a listen to what the Chinese leaders have commented.
近期，美国以各种借口宣布对包括中国在内的所有贸易伙伴滥施关税，严重侵犯中方企业正当权益，严重冲击全球经济秩序稳定。中方对此强烈谴责，坚决反对。
美方出于一己之私，将关税作为实施极限施压、谋取私利的武器，严重侵犯各国的正当权益，严重违反世界贸易组织的规则，严重损害以规则为基础的多边贸易体制，严重冲击全球经济秩序稳定。这是公然冒天下之大不韪，与整个世界作对。
As Beijing weighs the costs of further escalation, reports claim that its top leadership is meeting Thursday to hash out plans for additional stimulus to boost its fragile economy, which was already ailing before the trade war. Trump has predicted that trade deals will be made with all countries, including China, has for now refused to roll back retaliatory tariffs on US goods. Let's take a look at what he said.
Would you consider talking or meeting with Xi Jinping?
Oh, sure. He's a friend of mine. I like him. President Xi, I like him. I respect him. But they haven't treated our country right. Sure, I'd meet with him. On the other countries, we have Japan is here, and South Korea is here, and others are here, and we're trying to see them. It's from what I hear, it's much more than 75. I said 75 plus.
So many.
It's everybody wants to make a deal, actually.
Furthermore, China's film administration said on Thursday it would moderately reduce the number of US films it imported into the country. A statement from the film administration said that the wrong actions of the US government will reduce the favorable impressions of domestic audiences on American films. Thus, they will follow the law of the market and moderately reduce the imports. We are now joined by Andrew K.P. Lung, independent China strategist located in Hong Kong, to discuss this further. Thank you very much for joining us, Andrew, as always. Andrew, what do you think of today? What do you think of both the actions of China and the United States? China have said they are willing to meet the US halfway in their trade negotiations, tariff imports. What do you make of it all, and what effect is that these two global economic superpowers going to have on the rest of the world?
Well, first of all, let's face it. I mean, the whole world, most of the media focuses only on Trump's tariffs on goods, because, of course, on trade in goods, America, of course, suffers a huge deficit. But trade in services, America enjoys a huge surplus vis-a-vis China and many other countries. But that side of the equation is totally ignored. So that's the first dynamic we've got to pay attention to. The second, of course, is much more fundamental. I mean, the whole idea of comparative advantage, where no country can produce everything and they export those products or services which they have competitive advantage. For example, in the United States, their high technology, their patents and services, or their Boeing aircraft. But they've got to import a lot of stuff from other countries, and consumer products, of course, and which are produced very high quality, well, including electric vehicles, very high quality at a fraction of the cost, because the costs in the United States are hugely much higher. So these are the dynamics. People seem a lot of the rhetoric seems to be missing. But on in the increasing trade friction between the United States and China, we're seeing that I think that Beijing is seeing that it is the Trump blinks first. He's pausing. In the beginning, he said we'll never roll back the tariffs, but now all of a sudden he's pausing for 90 days because there is a big market turmoil out there threatening the entire bond market. And I think some of his closest advisors are putting pressure on him, putting the cards on the table. And that's why he's pausing these tariffs for all of the other countries except China for 90 days. But then it exposes the whole relatively less than robust negotiating position of the United States, because after all, vis-a-vis China, the United States depend on China much more than the other way around, apart from aircraft, as I mentioned, and even agricultural products, of which China is the Americans' biggest customer. China can always buy these agricultural products from Brazil or even from Russia. So I think that in fact, if you look at numbers, the American market accounted for something like 9% of China's total export market to the entire world back in 2018. But now it's down to something like 14 to 15%. So I think that the China is now in a much, and also China's been preparing for this ever since Trump 1.0, pivoting towards self-reliance and growing its domestic economy. But above all, China, I think, highlights the very important point that no country should be put in the position of a supplicant in the kind of negotiations. That's what Trump wants. He's imposing, tremendous tariffs so that everybody is begging for his mercy.
Yes.
Expression kissing my aid,
This is...
But I think that China highlights the importance of standing on your own 2 feet. But of course, it depends on your own strength. I mean, poor countries like Madagascar, for example, have very little negotiating position with the United States. So I think that's what we are seeing. But people talk about tariffs and trade, forgetting that this is only the first wave. The next wave is coming very soon because Trump wants to bring back not only manufacturing jobs to the United States. The entire manufacturing ecology in the United States have been hollowed out, for decades, outsourcing to other countries, resulting in anger of the poorly paid jobs that are left over, and hence this Make America Great Again. But what is more important is shipping. Because shipping is important part of international trade. Very stringent rules are already being drawn up in the White House, imposing huge levies on China ships made in China to any port either controlled by the United States or possibly invested by the United States. Hence, this Hutchison deal with Hutchison ports, 54 ports around the world,
Andrew,
not just Panama.
Andrew, how do you analyze Trump's kind of diplomacy, his public statements, his social media posts in this whole tariff saga? Obviously, President Xi Jinping is quite reserved in the way when he speaks. How do you think that the difference between the Trump administration and the Xi administration will fees up against each other in these ongoing negotiations? We know Trump wants to make a deal, or at least he says that China wants to make a deal in this. is this back and forth going to continue? Are these two very different sides going to be able to work together moving forward?
Well, both are very strong countries. I mean, the United States, after all, is still the largest economy in the world. Its military outreach, global military power is unrivaled. It's also blessed with a lot of resources and guarded by two oceans on both sides of the United States. And then hence, its pivot to the Western Hemisphere, talking about Greenland, Canada, Panama Canal, Mexico, and with an eye to the natural resources or minerals in Greenland and Canada, that would really make America much stronger, if not great again. But also, Trump is trying to project his power in the Asia Pacific through offshore balancing, relying on some countries like Australia and to a certain extent India and South Korea and Japan to contain China, and using the dominance of the US dollar to exert dividends from all other countries. But that's what he wants. And above all, he wants to bring shipping back, because shipping affects not only trade, but the US Navy. America is only building 1 out of 1,000 ships around the world. So this cannot be allowed to go on. And brings me to how this problem could be resolved. Because the China's manufacturing is so competitive, including electric cars. Even though you lump on tariffs above 20 or 30% or even higher, the Chinese cars are very, very competitive, because it's very, very good value for money. Not just cheap, but also high technology, very well designed. But that's not very good for China if you push it too far, because it's going to decimate all the car industries, not only United States, but also Europe. The way to go about it is similar to what is happening to a relatively small car company in the United Kingdom. I'm talking about those black cabs, and half of them are now produced by a company based in Coventry, but that company is owned by China. So using this model, some of the Chinese car manufacturing production could be moved to Europe, then to be moved to the United States. And I think Trump welcomes investments. And I think with someone like Elon Musk, this could well happen.
Andrew KP Lung, thank you very much for joining us. We now move on. In latest